Hi everyone, thank you so much for showing up and joining us in today's session. My name is Farah Azlin and I am a clinical psychologist in Naluri. As a clinical psychologist, one of the things that I do is see my clients through therapy session. And usually during therapy session, most of my clients would start their conversation with me is by saying something like, I'm feeling stressed out today. I panicked just now. Nothing goes well. I just feel down. So usually expressing emotions or using emotion as a conversation starter is how people would come and just start their conversation to tell me what exactly happened and to share with me a bit more on the things that they have gone through throughout the day or the week or the month. So it's a very natural thing for us to start with emotions. As a clinical psychologist, I see emotions as data points. It means something. This emotion, it doesn't exist there because it's there. There must be a reason why someone is experiencing certain emotions. And today's session, we are going to uncover together about stress and panic, like whether these two terms here, either stress or panic, whether it's the same thing or is it something different, or it is actually something that exists in a continuum. And in the second part, what we are going to do is going to uncover and I will share with you guys how can we manage these emotions and actually treat them as part of us. So to just get started, I want all of you to imagine like our emotions are just like the weather. And when I say the weather, just imagine like maybe today or any of the days that you have before. Just imagine and try to recall back, how do you feel the first thing as you wake up in the morning? Perhaps we feel happy, perhaps we feel excited because, we're starting out a day, we want to start afresh. But then as time passes by during the day, we do realize that our emotion does change. Maybe from happy or excited, we feel perhaps a bit anxious, we'll feel a bit stressed out, we're feeling that fear, or we're feeling sad, or maybe we keep on feeling happy and excited throughout the day. But trust me, our emotions does change as the day goes by. So it's just like the weather. Sometimes it's shiny, sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it's rainy, and there will be times it's going to be thunderstorm, and maybe it's going to be so hot throughout the day. So it's the same thing with our emotions. Why am I starting with us trying to imagine emotion just like the weather? Because I want to share with you guys about this stress curve. So this stress curve is, it shows that how we actually does experience stress every day, every time throughout our life. There will be days that our stress would be a bit low. There will be days that our stress would be a bit high. So how does this stress curve work? So if you can see, if our stress level is 0, we have very low stress, then our performance and even how we become productive throughout the day, it would actually be low as well. We'll be bored, we're going to be inactive, there will be no motivation, we're feeling tired and fatigued, we have poor concentration. So that's when we don't really have that pressure or stress. But as our stress level increases and we actually reach that optimum stress, we can actually see that we are actually living a meaningful life. We're becoming motivated. We are productive. We actually reach the peak performance and we also experience positive emotions. However, once our stress level keep on increasing to the level of distress, that's when we start to see the declining of our performance and our daily activities. And if we reach the level of 10 or maybe, between 5 to 10 is very, very stressful, we're not doing anything, that's when we start to realize that we start to feeling confused, we have poor emotion regulation skill, we're becoming easily irritated, we're unable to focus, negative emotions starts to show up a bit more as compared to the positive emotions. So naturally, we experience stress because stress exists in a continuum, just like our emotion. When there are good days, we're feeling good, our stress level is optimum, we can be productive and perform well. But there are days that it's just a bit too much. Maybe to the point of burnout and we're not doing anything. That's when we're experiencing that distress. So stress is part of us, and it's okay to feel stress from time to time. It just shows that we are actually living a life. Now, what about panic? So panic is actually, usually as a psychologist, we would identify panic similar as anxiety. So to understand panic, we actually need to understand about fear and worry. So just think about fear as our automatic alarm response that usually would switch on and off whenever there is a moment of danger or there's actually no danger. So fear, it exists actually to protect us. The same thing with worry. When we worry, usually we worry about something that is yet to happen. Our mind is already thinking about the next step, the future. What's going to happen next? What if this doesn't happen? What if this? What if that? So that's the nature when it comes to panic or anxiety. The underlying cause of it would be either fear or worry. So anxiety is actually a feeling of fear, worry, or feeling unease. And that occurs, it can actually be due to stress as a reaction of stress, or there are also circumstances where there's no obvious trigger. So one of the best way to explain about stress or anxiety or panic is the fight or flight response. All of us here, we have the fight or flight response. Our brain is designed to actually perceive danger to help us to survive. So stress is needed for that survival. I want you guys to just imagine you're walking in the woods and then suddenly you saw a tiger. So definitely you would feel something, like you would stun for a while, you start to feel sweating, you start to feel your heart beating quite fast, your breathing also starts to become shallow, rapid. So that is the brain perceiving the tiger as danger and sending the signals to all parts of our body, hey, we should run because it's danger there. So it's the same thing as well. When we perceive danger or stress or something that can be harmful to our body, like all this emotion that we see it as something very bad. So when that happens, we will start to feel certain symptoms inside our body that shows that, hey, you're actually maybe feeling a bit stressed or you are actually a bit panicky or experiencing that anxiety. So what are some of the symptoms that we can look out for? So first thing is to look at the physical symptoms. So some of the physical symptoms that we can notice when we are experiencing that overwhelming stress or that symptoms of anxiety and panic. First thing first, we start to feel these palpitations. There's an increase in our heart rate and you can actually feel it. When you're a bit nervous, maybe you have to do some kind of presentation or, you need to meet your boss, for example, or you have to face something that you have been avoiding for a long time. So it could be that you start to realize my heartbeat is actually increasing. The heart rate is so fast. And we can also start to feel muscle tension. When our muscle starts to be cramping here and there, we start to feel pain around our body. And there's also that sweating without, it could be we start to sweat for no reason because we're so nervous. And it can also be observed through our breathing. Our breathing starts to become short and shallow and very fast. And there are times that we might feel like, oh my God, I'm out of breath. So that's one way of our body telling us that, hey, something is not right here. Some people also may experience digestive issue. Maybe that day they start to feel stomachache or they feel nauseous. They starts, doesn't feel good with their tummy. So the digestive issues is also something that we can look at as part of the symptoms of us experiencing excessive stress or anxiousness. Another thing that we can look at is in terms of our energy. We may start to feel tired, even though we feel maybe we have a good sleep, but that energy, we just feel so drained, so tired, and our immunity can also be lowered actually because of this excessive stress and also anxiety. Aside from that, I'm sure some of you can relate, like suddenly you feel migraine, you just feel a headache, it's just so much to do, you can't think well. And this can also be observed when in terms of our appetite and also our sleep habit. Some people, because of this excessive stress, they maybe, stress eating, or they just don't feel like they want to eat even when they're hungry. Or it could be that they sleep too much or sleep too little because there's so many things going on inside their mind. So these are the things that we can look at as part of our physical symptoms. Now, moving on, let's look into the emotional part when we are experiencing excessive stress or fear or worry. So one thing is someone will start to feel like they're feeling helpless or trapped. Can also be emotionally detached. You feel numb, like you're feeling so many things, you're so overwhelmed to the point that we just don't feel anything anymore. We can also be experiencing frustration. Nothing goes well. I feel so frustrated about this. And in fact, there are some people who may feel like they're all alone, even though there's so many people around them. So another thing that we can look at is where we are much more sensitive to things that can irritate us, that can trigger our anger. We will feel restless, and then we would also feel defeated. So these are some of the emotions that someone may experience when they are having excessive stress or anxiety or panic. Now let's look at other parts, like the other symptoms when it comes to our thinking, our cognition. So when you talk about thinking and cognition, most of the time for someone who is going through something that can be a bit overwhelming for them, this is where all the unhelpful thinking style starts to come in. We may have this black or white kind of thinking. If I don't do this, if I don't perform, I am a failure. I need to perform well so that I can be recognized, for example. So that is the kind of black and white thinking. So usually when it comes to thinking, and this is the part where a lot of us would have, and that very much relates to stress and also panic. So sense of failure or self-doubt, we start to doubt our own ability. Maybe all this while we actually are able to do the things, but we start to doubt. Did I do it right? Perhaps I need to check in again and again. I don't want to be criticized for this. I'm so scared that maybe my boss gonna get mad at me. So all of this self-doubt starts to kick in. And of course, with this self-doubt, our brain is perceiving it as a danger, as a threat. Hence, we are experiencing more and more symptoms, and the cycle goes on and on. So aside from that, we can also, when we are experiencing this excessive stress or pressure, we may start to, notice or see that we're looking a bit more negatively towards our future. We have this negative outlook. We lost the sense of purpose. We don't feel motivated anymore. And in fact, there will be that sense where we start to feel less satisfied with the thing that we do. There's no sense of accomplishment at all. And another thing is when someone is going through excessive presence of stress or anxiety, we start to notice there's poor concentration, and it's a bit difficult for us to make a decision. So that's on the cognition part. Now let's look into the behavioral part when we are experiencing excessive stress. So one thing is people will start to withdraw from the responsibilities that they have. It could be their personal responsibilities or commitment. It could be our responsibilities at work, our responsibilities towards our community. We start to withdraw ourselves. And when we start to withdraw ourselves, that's when we start to isolate ourselves as well. Another thing that is commonly observed when someone is experiencing intense emotion, like feeling overwhelmed with the different emotion that they have, is procrastination. We know that I have a deadline that I need to commit, I need to submit, but it's just so hard for me to start doing it. Hence, let me just procrastinate. I don't want to face that thing. It's so hard. I'm going to procrastinate. So that's usually the common presentation that we see for someone who is overwhelmed. Another thing is there's also that part of behavior where we excessively coping with food. It could be stress eating. We may take substance and also alcohol excessively, which is not good for our health. And we can see that when we are not able to regulate our emotions, so that's when we start to take out our frustration on others. It could be things, it could be people around us. And also when we talk about productivity and we look at work performance, this is where in terms of behavior, we notice that we start to skip work. Either we come in late, we leave early, or we don't show up at all. Or maybe we show up, but we're not doing the work that we're supposed to do. So these are some of the symptoms that we can look out when someone is actually experiencing excessive stress or starts to feel panicky. So earlier I did mention that stress and anxiety, what are the definition, but whether these two things, are they actually different or are they the same? So like I said, excessive stress can actually lead to experiencing anxiety and even depression. And anxiety or panic, it also can be triggered from other triggers that doesn't necessarily comes from stress. So this is where understanding the symptoms and really look back at what are the presentations are very important. But please be mindful, these are just some of the symptoms for us to check and look at. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you tick most of this, you have anxiety, you have panic, or you are experiencing excessive stress to the point of diagnosing yourself. So let's try our best to not self-diagnose with the symptoms that I shared. Now, moving on to the second part of this is on how to actually manage the stress and the panic through this few self-help guide. I'm sure some of you have your own self-care routine on how to take care of your mental health. And today I just want to emphasize on some of the things that we can do to actually manage the stress and even the panic that we may experience. It could be, suddenly there's so many requests coming in, we start to panicky. So what can we do to manage our emotions better? So first thing first is to actually find the meaning in our emotions. Why do I start with finding meanings in our emotion? So I want you guys to just reflect on these few things that I want to do with all of you here. So first thing first, this is something that I found from a book that I read. So the book said that a meaningful life is actually a stressful life. So let's do this activity together. You can either bring a pen or a paper to do it, or take out your iPads or your tabs, or even open up that Word document. So first, I want all of you to list out your most meaningful roles, meaningful relationships, activities, or goals that all of you have. It could be work related, it could be personal, or it could be something that you want to do to the communities. So just list that out for a moment. Now, what I want all of you to do, just reflect on this. In what part of your life that you have listed out there are you most likely to experience joy, love, laughter, learning, or a sense of purpose? So as you have listed a few, ask yourself, would you also describe any of them as sometimes or frequently stressful? I strongly believe that yes, you do. So you see, when we are working on something, when we have certain commitments or roles that is meaningful and really matters to us, there will be that element of stress. Because stress can be good stress. So there's a lot of studies that actually been done to look at someone's life, quality of life, and also their stress level. So most of them actually found out that those who identify themselves as having good quality of life is that they do identify that their life is not stress-free. Their life is still stressful, but they find meaning in the stress that they have gone through. They find meaning in the adversity and the experiences that they have in their life. So find meaning in the emotions that you feel. If you are feeling stressed out, if you're feeling a bit depressed, you're feeling panicky, you're feeling that anxiousness, it's actually very normal for us to experience that. It shows that these emotions here, it shows that there is something meaningful, there is something that really matters to us. That's why we experience it. Take, for example, your work. I'm sure all of you here would want to perform well for your work, right? So in order to perform well for your work, there will be tasks that's given to us that can be a bit challenging. But most of the time, we would take on the challenge because we know this work, this task means to us. It brings value to our work. We are going to feel stressed out, right? I'm not gonna lie, we're going to feel stressed. But that stress brings meaning to us. Hence, being resilient, we do it. We find ways to actually deliver. We reach out for help if we don't know how to do it. So we see the meaning behind these emotions that we have. So like I said, as a psychologist, I would always look at emotions as data. So start looking at your emotion as your data as well. It's part of you. Feeling certain thing is part of you. And it's very important for us to not suppress that emotion, to not push them away. If you start to push them away, that's when they keep on coming back. Like, if I told you, don't imagine a pink elephant. I'm sure most of you right now is actually imagining a pink elephant, right? So it's the same thing with our emotions, with our thoughts. The more we push them away, the more that we keep coming back. So why don't we just sit with this emotion and thoughts? It's part of us. And then after we sit with it, we try to find the meaning in it. That's when we continue doing the things that we're supposed to do that really matters to us. So that's the first part. Now next, living a healthy lifestyle is also very important. I'm sure you must have heard a lot where people are telling you one way to actually achieve that good well-being is to live a healthy lifestyle. Why people keep on telling you this? Because it's important, and research have proven healthy lifestyle can actually also help with our mental health. So healthy body, healthy mind, very simple. Having a regular exercise routine is very important. Taking well-balanced meal, like quarter, half portion is something that we advocate. So regular exercise, eating healthy meal, it should not be a burden. It should be something that we enjoy doing. And let's say if you're not really a gym geek, you don't really go to the gyms, it's okay. It's something that you can do as part of your daily life. Could be just walking for 30 minutes outside to just get from some fresh air because, it can be a bit too much at work. It can be a bit too much at home. So going out, take that walk, it could be something that you can do. Or perhaps you're someone who's into something more active. So you go out and figure out what works best for you, what time works best for you, what activity works best for you, because exercise, it should not be a burden. Now, when it comes to our meal, it doesn't mean that we only eat greens all the time. There are rooms for us to still enjoy some dessert, to still enjoy some foods that we used to love. Maybe it's not really well balanced, but again, 80% of our meal, it should be good meal. And that 20% is something, we call it as indulgent meal. So we still can enjoy our meal. It's just that we're being mindful and aware on what we eat. So another thing is on the intake of caffeine, alcohol, and also nicotine. It's very important for us to monitor our intake because we are going to use this body for a long time. Like I said, sound body, sound mind. So in order for us to perform either at work or at home, we need to ensure that our body is also healthy. And we need to actually monitor the intake, the food intake, the substance intake that we put inside us. And last but not least, very important as well, is our sleep and rest. Sleep is very important. Try our best to actually develop good sleep hygiene. What are sleep routine? What are the sleep routines that you can do to help you to sleep better at night? And if perhaps you may have some sleeping trouble or sleeping problem, I would recommend you to actually see a professional, see the expert to actually analyze your sleep and see how can you improve your sleep. Maybe it could be biological, it could be psychological. So it's very important to monitor our sleep as well and to get rest. So next thing is on effective time management skill. Why do I specifically put time management skill here? Because usually when we are feeling stressed out or when we are feeling, overwhelmed, feeling nervous, it's usually because there's so many things going on. And when we are at that point of time, it's very hard for us to really think clearly. So time management skill is very, very crucial here. So take one step at a time. It's okay if you can't do all things at once. We are not the best multitasker, trust me. So one step at a time. Plan ahead. Some people, they do weekly planning. Some people, they actually do maybe daily planning or monthly planning. So it depends what is your style, and plan ahead. I'm sure there will be deadlines that's going to have to come. So plan ahead because we have different tasks to do. So plan ahead on what tasks that you need to do, what are the commitments that you have. And when you plan ahead, that's when we can start to learn to delegate and prioritize the tasks. Which task is urgent and important? Which task is urgent but not that important? Which task is not urgent but it is important? Which task is not urgent and not important? So try to, prioritize them and delegate some tasks. Perhaps these tasks can be done by other people. So learn to delegate that as well. Learn to have that effective communication style with your colleague, with your family members, if you need to delegate tasks or if you need to really prioritize the tasks that you have. Other than that, it's very important for us to stay organized and be focused. Our workstation also plays a role when it comes to staying organized and to be focused. Some people, they need that quiet moment when they want to, have that focus time. So if you need a quiet time, if you need a quiet space, then find a quiet space. But if you prefer to have people around, then go ahead. Different people work differently. So it's okay. Find your own way to work productively. And last thing is actually to overcome that procrastination. I know procrastination happens because we're avoiding doing the tasks that could be challenging. We're avoiding the tasks that could be a lot for us to handle. Hence, we procrastinate. Identify your whys. What makes you procrastinate? Is it because you don't have enough resources? Is it because you don't have enough time? Is it because you just don't know how to do it? So identify first. What makes you procrastinate? Once you have identified that, that's when you start to list out, okay, with this reason, what can I do? If I don't have enough resources, perhaps I can talk to my supervisor and tell him or her that I don't think I have enough resources. It's blocking me from doing my tasks. Can you help me? Or it could be you just feel a bit overwhelmed. There's so many things going on. Perhaps you can also, start delegating the tasks. Or it could be you just don't know how to do it. So yeah, that's one of the issue. That's one of the blocker. List it down and then find solution. If I don't know it, how can I do it? How can I manage this? How can I talk to my supervisor? How can I talk to my colleague? How can I learn and upskill myself? So list down the problem, find the possible solution, and try to talk it out with your direct supervisor or your colleague or anyone around you that you can get help with. Next is on relaxation. Relaxation is also very crucial and important when it comes to managing our stress and our panic or anxiety. So there are many ways for us to do relaxation, because relaxation is actually a skill. So if you remember the fight or flight response that I shared just now, so that actually is what we call as our stress response. So when we are in the state of experiencing stress response, the best way for us to manage it is to actually activate the relaxation response. So how to actually activate this relaxation response? It's very simple. Try to do relaxation technique. It could be deep breathing exercise. It could be any mindfulness technique for us to just pause and also send back the signal to our brain that actually this is a false alarm. It's not a threat. Hence, when our brain perceives it, that's when the relaxation response will be triggered and activated. So why relaxation? Relaxation actually helps to develop a calmer response towards negativity, towards distracting or worrying thoughts that we have. So it's very important for us to start activating it. I know some people, some of my clients, when they see me, they tell me that, Farah, I think deep breathing is not working. I tried so many times. The anxiety is still there. That stress is still there. So actually, when you do relaxation or mindfulness technique, it does not get rid of that overwhelming thoughts and emotion. It does not get rid of the stress. It does not get rid of that panic or fear or anxiety. What it do is to just minimize the reaction from it. Trust me, if you are feeling overwhelmed, I challenge you to do deep breathing. Every time you do it, or every day try to do deep breathing. Whether you are stressed, whether you're not stressed, just try to do it. Trust me, from the long-term perspective, you will start to see that actually you have a better control of your emotion and your thoughts. And again, if that overwhelming and very distressful emotional thoughts come in again, then do it again. Do it again until you really reach there where you're feeling a bit more calmer, when you can think a bit more clearly, and then continue doing the task that you're supposed to do. And last but not least, it's very important as well for us to do regular mental health self-examination. So the tips and tricks that I shared with you guys, it's something that we can do. But there are circumstances that it can be a bit difficult and too hard. So how do we know that it's time to actually start seeking help? So there are a few conditions here that you can start to observe and notice to know that, okay, actually I really need help right now. I tried to do all these things, but it's not helping as much. So first thing is to observe whether the symptoms that you have, either it maintain or worsen, and it has been ongoing for longer than 2 weeks. So this condition here, this checklist here, it's only with the condition that you have tried to do the self-care, you have tried to do the things that can help to manage the emotion, but it doesn't seem to work. So this is where you know that, okay, I need to really get help. So aside from that, aside from the symptoms worsening or maintain, aside from the duration, which is more than 2 weeks, one thing that we can check is also when we are unable to do the things that we need to do. Our daily routine starts to, become haywire. We can't do work properly. We can't do the different commitments that we have properly. So what are the options out there that you can look out for? Of course, you can go for counseling or therapy. And perhaps what you need, perhaps it's just something circumstantial. You're experiencing something very distressful and you just need an outlet. You need someone to guide you. Coaching can come in as well. And this is when you know that you need to seek help. And another thing for us to be mindful of, it doesn't have to wait until it becomes worse for you to seek help. It's just a guide when you know that, okay, I need to really seek help. But even when, it's not, it's haven't become very severe yet, the moment that you know that it's not really helping out, I'm just feeling a bit overwhelmed, if you need to talk to someone, perhaps you need some kind of coaching session, then go ahead and do it. There's nothing wrong with seeking out for help. So to sum up, I think it's very important as we learn and as we talk about stress and also panic or anxiety, it's very important for us to understand that it starts from us. we are the change maker for our life. What we can do is we transform our stress and our overwhelming feeling into hopeful outlook. Because a stressful life is a meaningful life. We turn our adversity into resources, something that we can learn, something that we can gain from the experiences, and start doing it with ourselves. As we start doing it with ourselves, unconsciously and eventually we actually influence others to also do that as well. Caring cultivates resilience. Self-compassion cultivates resilience. Resilience starts from us. Transforming ourselves starts from us. With that, thank you so much for listening. I hope this has been a very helpful and beneficial session for you. We can continue with the question and answer session. Thank you so much for your time.